Hello again everyone, back in the shed. So last time you saw me put a bit of a back carve in the main body piece of the guitar using the angle grinder, which was a lot of fun. Today the topic is weight relief, so let's get to it. Okay, so I've removed the cap once more, and this is the inside of the body, which, as we already know, we've hollowed out, which as far as any weight relief goes would normally be enough. But we're still quite heavy at the moment. I think we're in the region of somewhere around 6 to 7 pounds, and we need to get that down. So the first thing I'm looking at is actually the thickness of this outer wall. Now, the reason I actually left it so thick was, in my mind, to give enough gluing surface around this outer edge to get a good firm hold on the cap, which is fine. But the wall itself needn't necessarily actually be that thick. In fact, unless I start drilling some pretty big holes, it might cause some problems when it comes to fitting a jack socket and all that kind of thing. So, the narrowest point of this outer wall is around this edge here, and that measures somewhere in the region of about 12 mil. Now, I've been fairly uneven because if I sweep across to this side, this outer wall here is somewhere in the region about 16, 17 mil, something like that. Not to worry. So the plan is to use one of these rebate cutters with the router. It actually follows exactly the same principle as the bearing cutters we've been using already, in that it follows a template or an already cut surface using this bearing. But the difference is that the cutter sticks out significantly more than the bearing itself, so it will actually reclaim, if you like, some of the material from inside that surface. So what I actually want to do is have that cutter run around the inside wall and take off some of that extra material. Now, I am sort of limited in that the bearing is on the bottom of this cutter, so if I want to have any kind of template or anything, I basically have to use the bottom of the wall, so I'm not actually going to be able to cut right the way into that wall with this cutter. But it does mean I should be able to take a sizable chunk, maybe a couple of passes, up the outer edge of this wall. So in the thinnest place, the outer wall is about 12 mil. It's not consistent all the way around, but that is definitely the thinnest point. Now, as it stands at the moment, this bearing and this cutter would actually remove somewhere in the region of about, well, 11 or 12 mil. I would like to remove up to about 6 mil. That means we're going to just dip under about 0.5 centimetre on the outside edge, but in other places it will still be considerably thicker. In order to do that, I have these. This is a stack of different size bearings. I can take the bearing off the end of here, put these different size bearings on, and it will allow me to select how much material is removed. So I'm just going to have a look through the bearings now and see which one fits best. So having a look at the available bearings, I've got this one, which would allow me to take off about 4 mil, maybe 5 mil. And I've got this one, which allows me to take off about 6 or 7 mil. Now, I was a little bit worried that if I take about 6 or 7 mil off here, it does leave it rather thin. And that means when I come round to do the final sand with the bobbin sander on the outside edge, it could be getting quite thin around there. I'm particularly conscious of this edge, where I know that I do have a bit of a score taken out the side, where I am going to have to cut a little deeper with the sander. But then I did remember that it is substantially thicker on this side anyway. So I think I'm going to chance it and actually go with taking off more material in this instance. Wish me luck. Alright, the rebate bit with the correct bearing is now in the router. I had a great deal of difficulty in getting it set to the correct height because I just can't see what I'm doing. I pretty much had to lower the router until I felt the tip touching the bottom of the inside of the guitar body. I've also moved it round to make sure that it is going to consistently stay at the right height as it goes round, which it is. The guitar body itself, I've had to secure in place using the old super glue and masking tape, something I've had mixed success with, but unfortunately just any arrangement of clamps or anything like that is going to end up snagging the extended router base. So this is a little bit tricky, a little bit delicate, could go wrong, but we're going to give it a go. Where are we? Seems I've got something locked off so that that won't move. Okay, so it turns out the router has a safety feature in that it won't let you open the cover for the power button unless the base is extended so far, because when you retract the base all the way back, that's in the position where you're changing the router bits and everything, and obviously you don't want to accidentally turn the thing on while you're changing bits. Unfortunately, I did actually want to use it when it was extended that far, but for whatever reason there doesn't seem to be any way to get that to come back below a certain depth, which is no good to me. So what I've actually had to do is what I did before, which is actually slightly poke the router bit out of the collet just to actually get it to be long enough, if you like, which is not ideal, but we did it before and it worked for us, so hopefully it'll work again. So as you can see there, it's taken a channel out of the exterior wall. Now, I have at this point to some degree made an error. I realised this after I got about 4 inches into the first pass, and that is, if I wanted to take a second pass, at the moment the bearing is on the bottom, so it's going to have nothing to run round. What I should have done is taken a pass here first and then gone further down. Now, if I had a cutter with a bearing on the other side, that wouldn't be a problem. It's possible I might be able to jimmy it with one of my normal flush cutters and basically cut flush to this, if it's wide enough that it'll extend past this, but to be honest I don't think it will be, so I might have to leave it there for now. But I'll have a quick route through my router bits and see what I can find. Okay, so the best solution I've got with what we've got available to be able to take at least another pass out. This is the bearing that we were using. If I stick this bearing on, we've gone from taking 4mm off to taking about 2mm, maybe slightly more off. If I can set the router to the correct depth so that the bearing actually follows around the cut that we've already taken, with the blade cutting in above here, it means we're actually going to cut slightly deeper, but only by another 2mm. And feeling the thickness we've got there and the strength of it and everything, I think that's going to be okay. And the end result means it'll take off even more weight, which is great. Alright, so I've gone by eye and I've locked that at what I believe is the correct depth to get a good second pass on that. detect the confidence level in my voice. Well, we don't appear to have come through anywhere, which is a good start. So as you can see, this is the first cut we took. Down the bottom here, the lighter section. And then we took a second deeper cut around there. And it still actually feels fairly solid, with plenty of room left for sanding, which is great. So we've removed a considerable chunk of sawdust there. The next thing I want to look at is the horns. Now, if you remember, I was slimming down the back of the horns, so I didn't really want to route them out right at the very beginning until I saw how deep that was actually going to go. In reality, we haven't actually taken that much away from the area I would have routed out anyway. At best, maybe a centimetre, but that's being quite generous. So the next thing I'm actually going to do is just by freehand use a Forstner bit to go most of the way down to just remove some of this material. I think a good tool to use at this point would probably be some gouges to just manually carve out a nice kind of canoe shape in there. But again, I don't have any gouges, so I'm just going to get rid of the bulk of the material for now. So there we have it. The body has been weight relieved to some extent. There's still more we could do. We could certainly neaten it up a bit. We could probably take some little bits off the points here where we don't really need them and save a little bit more. But we've already taken that body weight down. I think that piece of wood alone was 3 kilos and it's now down to 1.8. So I think that's down from something like £7 to just under £4. And you've got to bear in mind as well, we've still got the net cavity and the pickup cavities and everything to take out there as well. So I'm hoping that's going to fall even further to somewhere like £3. At the minute, combined with the cap, it's still about £6.1 in total, which is still fairly heavy, but bear in mind we're going to carve a lot of that away. We've still got to take the pickup holes, the F holes and everything out of that as well. So the weight is coming down is the point I'm trying to make. Next time, I don't actually know what we're going to be doing next time at this point. We might try and tidy this up a little bit. I've also started looking at the neck. We might have some bits of wood to order there. I've already got some of the wood for the neck, but I'm starting to waver on my design and maybe thinking about going multi-laminate. So we might look at that. There's more templates to build for the neck, and well, there's just everything to do really. So if you've enjoyed, of course, like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you know anyone who'd like to follow the build, please show them the build, because I do need to find some more subscribers somewhere. Until next time, goodbye.